In the uncharted expanse of the cosmos, where light from distant stars takes eons to arrive, lies a secret older than time itself. A forgotten race, a vanished civilization, and a mystery buried beneath cosmic silence. What truly happened to the species once hailed as the pioneers of life? They left behind traces, fragments, and whispers, but no answers. Today, we embark on a journey to uncover their fate, a story filled with awe, peril, and revelations that will challenge everything we know about existence. This is the tale of the silent exodus. Deep within the labyrinthine chambers of the celestial repository, a vault that stretched across an entire moon, an anomaly lay dormant. It was a fragment of a forgotten age, a crystalline shard, dulled by aeons of neglect. The vault's curators, meticulous in their organization, had ignored this fragment, deeming it insignificant amidst the grand tapestries of galactic history. But to Kivran, an ethnologist from the aquatic world of Lemora 9, no relic was too insignificant. Kivran's reputation for unearthing obscurities was both a source of admiration and irritation within the academic circles of the Galactic Union. She had a knack for seeing connections others overlooked, and her intuition often led her to discoveries that rewrote history. On this particular day, Kivran's translucent tendrils brushed over the crystalline shard as she wandered the lower tiers of the repository. A faint pulse of energy rippled through her appendages. She paused, intrigued. The shard was unimpressive to the untrained eye, its surface scarred and dulled by time, but Kivran felt an unmistakable resonance. It was old, far older than anything else in this section of the archive. She carefully secured the shard and made her way to her workstation, a dome of holographic displays and tactile interfaces. There, amidst swirling projections of data and historical recreations, she placed the shard into a quantum decipherer. The device hummed to life, analyzing the artifact's structure and embedded data. What unfolded next left Kivran breathless. Encoded within the shard was an ancient distress signal, faint and fragmented but unmistakable. The signal carried coordinates to a star system long erased from Union maps. Alongside the signal were fragments of a language that predated even the oldest galactic civilizations. Her tendrils quivered as she deciphered one recurring word in the fragmented script: Erythians. The name stirred something deep within her. Erythians were not just a myth. They were a cornerstone of countless galactic legends. Described as the first interstellar civilization, the Erythians were said to have flourished eons ago, their influence stretching across galaxies. Yet their empire had vanished without a trace, leaving only enigmatic ruins and cryptic lore. Scholars had debated their existence for centuries, dismissing them as little more than allegories for early galactic unity. And yet, here it was. Evidence, hidden in plain sight, of their existence and possibly their demise. Kivran's mind raced. If the signal was authentic, it could lead to one of the greatest discoveries in galactic history. But the signal's fragmented nature posed a challenge. It was incomplete, as though deliberately obscured, and deciphering it fully would require computational power far beyond her resources. Kivran decided to bring her findings to the Galactic Union's Historical Council, a conglomerate of scholars, technologists, and cultural preservationists. She knew the risks. The Council was notoriously conservative, reluctant to allocate resources to what they often deemed speculative ventures. But Kivran had no choice. This was too significant to ignore. The Council Chamber, located in the capital orbit of Celis Prime, was a grand amphitheater suspended in zero gravity. Its walls shimmered with holographic depictions of galactic history, a constant reminder of the Union's achievements. Kivran stood at its center, her tendrils coiled tightly in a gesture of nervous determination. Before her floated a panel of 12 representatives, their forms as varied as the species they represented. Some were humanoid, others insectoid, avian, or entirely mechanical. Their expressions, or their species equivalent, ranged from intrigue to skepticism as Kivran presented her findings. The shard contains an encoded distress signal from what appears to be an ancient Erythian outpost, Kivran explained. Her voice amplified across the chamber. The coordinates lead to a system erased from our archives, suggesting a deliberate attempt to conceal its location. If authenticated, this could answer one of the greatest mysteries of our time. A tall, crystalline being named Lurith, whose light refracted into a spectrum of colors with each movement, spoke first. The Erythians are a myth, Kivran. Even if they existed, their time has long passed. What practical value does this discovery hold for the Union? Kivran's tendrils twitched. Practical value? The Erythians were the architects of interstellar culture. Their understanding of science, governance, and unity shaped civilizations for millennia. If we find their remnants, imagine the knowledge we could reclaim, knowledge that could propel us forward. Another representative, a cyborg named Virak with glowing segmented eyes, leaned forward. Even if your findings are accurate, the resources required for such an expedition would be immense. What assurance do we have that this isn't another wild chase? Kivran took a deep breath. I cannot offer guarantees, but consider this. Every great discovery began as a risk. We owe it to ourselves to pursue this. The chamber fell silent. The representatives exchanged glances, their neural interfaces transmitting private deliberations. Finally, the council's lead chair, an ancient being named Korvath, with an aura of deep wisdom, raised a hand. Kivran, Korvath said, his voice resonating like distant thunder, you have always been tenacious. While I remain skeptical, I cannot ignore the potential significance of your findings. The Council will approve a preliminary expedition. You will be provided with a crew and a vessel, but be warned, this mission must yield results, or it will be your last. Relief and determination surged through Kivran. She bowed deeply. Thank you, honored Council. I will not disappoint. Back in her quarters, Kivran reviewed the mission details. She would command a vessel named the Stellar Veil, a state-of-the-art exploration craft equipped for deep space navigation. Her crew would include specialists from across the Union, a xenolinguist, an archaeotech engineer, a biologist, and a combat expert for unforeseen dangers. As she prepared for departure, Kivran couldn't shake the weight of responsibility. The possibility of discovering the Erythians was exhilarating, but the risks were immense. Still, she resolved to see it through. The coordinates from the shard awaited, and with them, the promise of answers to a mystery that had haunted the galaxy for millennia. With the Stellar Veil docked and ready, Kivran stepped aboard, her tendrils brushing the control panel as if to familiarize herself with the vessel's essence. The engines hummed softly, a sound that heralded the beginning of an unprecedented journey. As the ship ascended into the star-speckled void, Kivran gazed out at the infinite expanse. Somewhere, out there in the cosmic abyss, lay the truth of the Erythians, and she was determined to find it. The Stellar Veil soared through the uncharted expanse of the galaxy, a symphony of its quantum engines reverberating in the void. Its hull shimmered with the faint glows of interstellar dust and radiation, a testament to the vessel's cutting-edge design. Inside, the hum of machinery melded with the subdued chatter of the crew as they adjusted to the rhythms of deep space travel. For Kivran, standing on the observation deck, the vastness of space was both a comfort and a challenge. The stars, Some clustered in brilliant formations, others faint pinpricks against a black sea, stretched out infinitely. It was here, amidst the void, that she felt the magnitude of her mission. Her tendrils lightly tapped the polished console. Before her, her thoughts swimming with the enormity of what lay ahead. The distress signal embedded within the shard had provided a set of coordinates, but little else. What would they find in that forgotten star system? Ancient ruins, signs of destruction, or nothing at all? Kivran's resolve was unwavering, but the weight of the unknown pressed heavily on her. The Stellar Veil's crew consisted of specialists, each selected for their expertise. As Kivran convened the first mission briefing, she studied their faces, sensing a mixture of determination and curiosity. The team included Dr. Vanira, a xenolinguist from Cerinthia, whose crystalline body refracted light with every movement. Her knowledge of ancient languages and codes was unparalleled. Lorin, the biologist whose adaptive exosuit allowed him to thrive in environments inhospitable to most species. His expertise in xenobiology had led to numerous discoveries about life's persistence. Kyle, the archaeotech engineer, a hybrid being with cybernetic limbs designed for precision. Kyle's ability to restore and interpret ancient technologies made him indispensable. Commander Ithis, a veteran combat strategist from the militaristic world of Darien. Her stoic demeanor and tactical mind provided a steadying presence for the group. "We are here because each of us brings something unique to this mission," Kivran began, her voice calm but firm. "Our objective is to uncover the truth of the Erythians and determine the source of the signal. There is no precedent for what we're attempting. Each of you will face challenges beyond anything you've encountered before. But remember this, we are explorers, seekers of knowledge. Whatever lies ahead, we face it together." Her words resonated in the silent room. Vanira's crystalline fingers danced over her datapad, decoding fragments of the signal. Kyle leaned forward, his mechanical eye whirring faintly as he analyzed holographic projections of the coordinates. Commander Ithis observed the others, her gaze steady, already assessing potential risks. The ship's navigational systems plotted a course through the unexplored sectors of the galaxy. As they traveled, the crew encountered phenomena that defied explanation. An iridescent nebula that pulsed with an almost sentient rhythm, a rogue planet shrouded in perpetual storms of glowing plasma, and a binary star system locked in a gravitational dance so precise it resembled a cosmic ballet. Each sighting stirred awe among the crew, but it also underscored the fragility of their mission. The farther they ventured, the more isolated they became from the known galaxy. Messages sent back to the Union grew increasingly delayed, their connection to civilization thinning like a fraying thread. Kivran spent her days alternating between the observation deck and the Stellar Veil's library, a labyrinth of holographic data and ancient records. The library's interface, an AI named Lyric, assisted her in piecing together fragments of Erythian lore. "Captain," Lyric's melodic voice chimed one day, "I have cross-referenced the signal's encoded patterns with known Erythian artifacts. There is a 78% correlation with their linguistic structure. However, anomalies suggest the signal was either corrupted or deliberately encrypted." "Deliberately?" Kivran's tendrils quivered with intrigue. "Yes," Lyric replied, "the encryption appears to be layered, as though concealing critical information. Decoding it fully may require direct access to its source." The revelation heightened the sense of urgency. Whatever lay at the signal's origin was not just ancient, it was guarded. As the Stellar Veil neared the designated coordinates, tension began to creep into the crew. The silence of deep space, once a backdrop for discovery, now felt oppressive. Even the ship's AI systems seemed quieter, their usual hums and chimes subdued. During a rare moment of reprieve, Lorin joined Kivran on the observation deck. The biologist's exosuit glinted faintly in the starlight, streaming through the viewport. "You're worried," he said, his voice low. "Worry is part of the job," Kivran replied, her gaze fixed on the distant glimmers of starlight. "But, yes, I'm worried. Not about failure, about what we'll find if we succeed." Lorin nodded, his expression thoughtful. "The Erythians were legends for a reason. If we're stepping into their shadow, we should be prepared for anything." The designated star system appeared unremarkable at first glance. A dim star, orbited by 3 planets. 2 were barren, lifeless rocks scorched by solar radiation. The third, however, piqued their interest. It was a small, icy world, encased in layers of reflective crystal, its surface glinting like a diamond against the dark. Scanning for atmospheric composition and surface anomalies, Kyle reported from the engineering console. His mechanical, "I projected data streams into the air. Atmosphere is thin, but breathable with support systems. No discernible signs of life on the surface. However—" "What is it?" Kivran asked, leaning closer. Kyle's voice dropped, tinged with awe. "There's a subterranean structure. Enormous, possibly artificial." The crew exchanged glances, the weight of discovery pressing upon them. Kivran straightened, her tendrils coiling with purpose. "Prepare for descent," she commanded. "We're going down there." As the stellar veil descended through the icy planet's thin atmosphere, its external lights illuminated jagged crystal formations and shimmering plains of frost. The ship's landing gear extended, crunching softly against the frozen ground. Outside, the planet was eerily silent. The only sound, the faint whistle of the wind. Kivran and her team donned their exploration suits, stepping into the unknown. The icy surface reflected their movements like fractured mirrors, but their focus was on the entrance to the subterranean structure, a dark void framed by crystalline spires. "This is it," Kivran whispered. The team moved forward, their footsteps crunching against the ice as they prepared to uncover the secrets hidden within. The entrance to the subterranean structure loomed before the crew of the stellar veil, a jagged void framed by crystalline spires that glinted ominously under the ship's external lights. Kivran stepped forward, her exploration suit's thermal, shielding activating with a faint hum as she neared the icy threshold. Her tendrils quivered with anticipation, brushing over the frost-covered ground. This moment, the edge of the unknown, felt both exhilarating and foreboding. "Sensors detect faint energy signatures within," Kyle reported, his mechanical eye adjusting to the low light. Streams of data scrolled across his HUD as he calibrated his instruments. "The readings are ancient, but they're unmistakably artificial." Commander Ithis' voice broke through the tense air, crisp and steady. "We'll move in a standard formation. Kyle, take point for tech analysis. Dr. Vanira and Lorin stay in the middle for linguistic and biological assessments. I'll cover the rear." She turned to Kivran. "Captain, your call." Kivran nodded, her tendrils coiling with determination. "Let's proceed cautiously. This structure has remained undisturbed for eons. We must respect what we're about to uncover." The team activated their suit's illumination modules, beams of soft light piercing the darkness as they stepped into the cavernous opening. The air inside was cold and still, carrying a faint metallic tang that hinted at ancient machinery. Walls of translucent crystal lined the corridor, their surfaces etched with intricate patterns that seemed to pulse faintly when illuminated. The team's footsteps echoed softly, the sound swallowed quickly by the oppressive silence. As they ventured deeper, the crew encountered chambers of staggering scale, each more elaborate than the last. Towering crystalline columns spiraled upward into unseen heights, their surfaces inlaid with symbols that glowed faintly as the team passed. Dr. Vanira's crystalline body refracted the soft light, creating shimmering reflections that danced across the walls. "These symbols," Vanira murmured, her voice tinged with awe. They resemble early Erythian script, but there are deviations. It's as if this was a dialect or an evolution of their language. She paused, running her crystalline fingers over an etched symbol. Give me a moment to record and analyze this. While Vanira worked, Lorin examined the environment for biological traces. His exosuit sensors scanned the air, surfaces, and any particles dislodged by their movements. No signs of organic life, he reported. But the mineral composition of these walls is unique. It's almost as if the structure itself is a hybrid of natural and artificial design. Kyle, crouched beside a dormant console, embedded in the floor, chimed in. The technology here is unlike anything I've seen. It's advanced, yes, but there's a simplicity to its design, as if it's meant to last indefinitely. Let's see if I can bring this console online. His cybernetic hand extended a multi-tool, its fine instruments working to access the ancient device. A faint hum echoed as the console flickered to life, projecting holographic symbols and diagrams into the air. Kivran stepped closer, her tendrils brushing the edge of the hologram. What are we looking at? Kyle's mechanical eye zoomed in on the projections. Schematics, possibly. This appears to be a map of the structure, but... He trailed off, a note of unease creeping into his voice. There are sections marked in a different color. They're heavily shielded, perhaps to protect something or to keep something contained. As the team pressed onward, they began to uncover artifacts scattered throughout the chambers. Fragments of crystalline devices, intricately crafted tools, and what appeared to be ceremonial objects lay preserved in the frigid air. Each artifact told a fragment of a story, hinting at a civilization of unparalleled creativity and knowledge. The craftsmanship here is exquisite, Vanira said, holding up a shard of crystal adorned with micro-etched designs. It's as if these objects were created not just for function, but as expressions of art and philosophy. Lorin knelt beside a crystalline sculpture partially embedded in the floor. Its shape was abstract, yet it evoked a sense of harmony and balance. These people, they didn't just build, they infused their creations with meaning. It's a reminder of what we've lost in our own technological pursuits. Kyle's voice cut through the reverie. I'm picking up stronger energy readings ahead. Whatever powered this place may still be functional. The corridor opened into a vast chamber that dwarfed the others. At its center stood a massive crystalline structure, shaped like a spire that extended both upward and downward, disappearing into unseen depths. Pulses of light coursed through, its surface casting the room in an otherworldly glow. Kale approached the spire cautiously, his instruments buzzing with activity. This is the source of the energy readings, he said. It's still active, but it's operating at a fraction of its capacity. Kivran circled the spire, her tendrils brushing the air as she tried to sense its significance. This isn't just a power source, she said. It's a repository, a core for storing knowledge or memories. Vanira stepped forward, her crystalline body shimmering with reflected light. If we can access it, we might be able to uncover the Erythians' final records. But we must be careful. Systems like this often have safeguards to protect their data. Kyle nodded. Let me handle the interface. If there are any traps or encryption layers, I'll neutralize them. He extended his multi-tool once more, connecting to the spire. As he worked, streams of holographic data flowed around him, shifting and rearranging in complex patterns. Minutes felt like hours as the team watched Kyle navigate the ancient system. Finally, the holograms coalesced into a single image, a representation of the star system they were in, overlaid with symbols and annotations. This is a record of the Erythians' final days, Vanira whispered. And it's incomplete, Kivran's. Tendrils twitched. Then we'll piece it together. Whatever happened here, we're closer to the truth than ever before. As the team prepared to delve deeper into the spire's data, a low vibration reverberated through the chamber. The spire's light dimmed momentarily before surging brighter. Alarms in the team's suits blared in unison. "What's happening?" Athis barked, her hand instinctively moving to her weapon. Kyle's voice was urgent. "The system's safeguards. They've been triggered. Something knows we're here." The chamber plunged into chaos as the structure began to awaken, its ancient mechanisms groaning to life. For the crew of the Stellar Veil, the mystery of the Erythians had just turned into a perilous race against the unknown. The corridor opened into a vast chamber that dwarfed the others. At its center stood a massive crystalline structure, shaped like a spire that extended both upward and downward, disappearing into unseen depths. Pulses of light coursed through, its surface casting the room in an otherworldly glow. Kale approached the spire cautiously, his instruments buzzing with activity. "This is the source of the energy readings," he said. "It's still active, but it's operating at a fraction of its capacity." Kivran circled the spire, her tendrils brushing the air as she tried to sense its significance. "This isn't just a power source," she said. "It's a repository, a core for storing knowledge or memories." Vanira stepped forward, her crystalline body shimmering with reflected light. "If we can access it, we might be able to uncover the Erythians' final records. But we must be careful. Systems like this often have safeguards to protect their data." Kyle nodded. "Let me handle the interface. If there are any traps or encryption layers, I'll neutralize them." He extended his multi-tool once more, connecting to the spire. As he worked, streams of holographic data flowed around him, shifting and rearranging in complex patterns. Minutes felt like hours as the team watched Kyle navigate the ancient system. Finally, the holograms coalesced into a single image, a representation of the star system they were in, overlaid with symbols and annotations. "This is a record of the Erythians' final days," Vanira whispered. "And it's incomplete," Kivran's tendrils twitched. "Then we'll piece it together. Whatever happened here, we're closer to the truth than ever before." As the team prepared to delve deeper into the spire's data, a low vibration reverberated through the chamber. The spire's light dimmed momentarily before surging brighter. Alarms in the team's suits blared in unison. "What's happening?" Athis barked, her hand instinctively moving to her weapon. Kyle's voice was urgent. "The system's safeguards. They've been triggered. Something knows we're here." The chamber plunged into chaos as the structure began to awaken, its ancient mechanisms groaning to life. For the crew of the Stellar Veil, the mystery of the Erythians had just turned into a perilous race against the unknown. As the crew deliberated, the hum of the spire resonated once more, this time accompanied by the sound of something mechanical, a rhythmic clanking, growing louder. The team instinctively fell into defensive stances, their training guiding their movements as the noise grew closer. "Movement detected," Lyric's voice chimed through their suits, multiple entities approaching from the east corridor. "Hostile?" Kivran asked, her voice steady despite the tension. "Unable to determine intent," Lyric replied. "Signatures are artificial in nature, likely remnants of the facility's automated systems." Moments later, the first of the entities emerged. It was a towering construct, humanoid in shape, but composed entirely of crystalline segments that shifted and reassembled with each movement. Its limbs ended in razor-sharp points, and its chest glowed faintly with the same energy that pulsed through the walls. This didn't wait for it to make the first move. "Engage!" she commanded, lunging forward with her plasma blade. The weapon's edge cut through one of the construct's limbs, but the severed piece immediately began to regenerate, the shards pulling themselves back together with eerie precision. Kale fired his multi-tool's plasma emitter, targeting the glowing core in the construct's chest. The shot destabilized it momentarily, causing it to stagger, but two more constructs appeared from the corridor behind it, their crystalline forms shifting as they advanced. "Fall back!" Kivran ordered, her tendrils gesturing toward another passage. "We'll regroup and find another way forward." The team moved quickly, retreating down the narrow passage as the constructs pursued them. Vanira, lagging slightly as she worked to analyze the symbols along the walls, shouted a warning. "The constructs are tied to the structure's energy. They're drawing power from the core. We need to disrupt it." Kyle grunted as he fired another shot, this time aiming for the floor beneath one of the constructs. The explosion of plasma caused it to collapse momentarily, buying the team precious seconds. "Easier said than done," he muttered. "That core's energy levels are off the charts." The passage led to a smaller chamber filled with what appeared to be dormant machinery. Kyle immediately began examining the devices, his mechanical limbs moving with urgency. "What are you looking for?" Kivran asked, her tendrils coiling tightly as she kept watch on the corridor. "A way to disrupt the construct's link to the core," Kyle replied. "If I can overload one of these systems, it might create a feedback loop that severs their connection." Ithis stood guard near the entrance, her plasma blade at the ready. "Make it fast, they're regrouping." Vanira and Lauren worked together to decipher more of the symbols, hoping to uncover additional clues. "There's something about a failsafe," Vanira said, her voice hurried. "A system designed to neutralize the constructs if containment was compromised. But it requires manual activation." "Where?" Kivran demanded. "Further down," Lauren replied. "Past the central core." Kyle's voice interrupted. "Got it. Overloading the system now. Brace yourselves." A deafening burst of energy erupted from the machinery, sending shockwaves through the chamber. The pursuing constructs faltered, their forms destabilizing as the energy link was severed. Without waiting for them to recover, Kivran led the team deeper into the structure, toward the failsafe that might hold the key to their survival. As the hum of the spire echoed ominously behind them, one thought lingered in Kivran's mind. Whatever had been contained within this place was stirring, and they were running out of time to stop it. The echoes of the spire's ominous hum followed the crew as they pressed onward, their path illuminated by the faint glow of their suits. The passageway twisted and narrowed, the crystalline walls seeming to close in around them as if guiding them towards some predetermined destination. The team moved swiftly, their breathing audible over the soft hum of their equipment. Kyle, scanning the surroundings with his mechanical eye, broke the silence. "The failsafe system Vanira mentioned, if it's tied to this place's primary energy core, it'll be heavily secured." "We don't have a choice," Kivran replied, her tendrils twitching with tension. "If the constructs regenerate as fast as they do, we can't keep them at bay indefinitely. The failsafe is our only option." Lauren's exosuit beeped as his biological sensors picked up faint traces. "I'm detecting increased biosignatures," he said, his voice uneasy. "They're not entirely organic, but they're getting stronger." Commander Ithis tightened her grip on her plasma blade as they turned a corner. "Stay sharp. Whatever's waiting for us, we can't let it catch us off guard." The passage opened into a cavernous chamber that dwarfed the previous rooms. Towering crystalline structures jutted upward like jagged teeth, their surfaces pulsating with rhythmic light. In the center of the room stood a massive console, its design ancient yet unmistakably functional. Surrounding it were conduits that stretched into the walls, carrying streams of energy toward the spire above. "This is it," Kyle muttered, stepping forward. His instruments buzzed as he scanned the console. "This is the Nexus, the heart of the failsafe system." Vanira's crystalline body refracted the ambient light as she approached. The symbols on the console are similar to what we saw earlier. "If I can decipher them, I might be able to guide Kale through activating the system." Kivran nodded. "Do it quickly. The constructs won't stay disrupted for long." As Vanira began her translation work, Kyle connected his multi-tool to the console, his cybernetic limbs working in tandem to access the system. Streams of holographic data filled the air, swirling around them as layers of encryption unraveled. "This isn't just a failsafe," Kyle said, his voice tinged with awe. "It's a complete control system for the structure. If we activate it, we're not just shutting down the constructs, we're resetting everything, including whatever was contained here?" Lorin asked, his exosuit servos whirring as he adjusted his stance. Kyle hesitated. "It's possible, but if we don't, the constructs will overwhelm us before we can make it out of here." Before Kivran could respond, the chamber's air grew thick with energy, and the hum of the spire surged. From the far end of the room, a group of crystalline constructs emerged, their forms shifting and rearranging as they advanced. These constructs were larger and more intricate than the ones encountered earlier, their movements faster and more deliberate. "We've got company," Ethis shouted, raising her plasma blade. She moved to intercept the first construct, her strikes precise as she aimed for its core. The construct's limbs reassembled almost instantly, forcing her to retreat and strike again. Kyle worked furiously at the console, his hands moving in a blur. "I need more time," he called out. "I'm bypassing the final layers of encryption, but it's fighting me." Kivran joined Ethis in the defense, her plasma emitter firing bursts of energy at the constructs. One staggered and collapsed, only to begin reassembling moments later. "Vanira, how much longer?" she demanded. "Almost there," Vanira replied, her crystalline fingers dancing over the console's symbols. "I've identified the activation. The sequence, but it's complex. Kale needs to input it exactly." Lorin fired his suit's built-in energy projector, targeting a construct that had nearly reached Kale. The blast disoriented the construct long enough for it to be knocked back. "We're running out of room to maneuver here." Kale's voice was steady, but strained as he followed Vanira's instructions. "Inputting the sequence now. Hold them off just a little longer." Kivran's tendrils lashed out in unison with her plasma emitter, striking a construct that had blanked Ethis. "Make it fast, Kale, we're at our limit." With a final input, the console emitted a deep chime, and the room's ambient light shifted to a steady, pulsing glow. The constructs froze mid-motion, their forms flickering as the energy sustaining them dissipated. One by one, they collapsed into inert shards, scattering across the floor. The silence that followed was deafening. Kyle slumped against the console, his mechanical limbs trembling slightly. "Failsafe activated. The system's been reset." Vanira exhaled, the light within her crystalline body dimming as her tension eased. "We did it." As the crew caught their breath, the console emitted another chime, and a new holographic projection filled the air. It was a map of the structure, overlaid with symbols that glowed ominously. Kivran stepped forward, studying the projection. "What is this?" Vanira's voice trembled as she interpreted the symbols. "It's a containment status. The failsafe didn't just neutralize the constructs, it's also unlocking something deeper within the structure." Kyle's mechanical eye zoomed in on the map. "The energy readings are spiking again. Whatever was contained here, it's waking up." Ithis tightened her grip on her blade. "Then we've only bought ourselves time. What's the next move, Captain?" Kivran's tendrils coiled as she considered their options. "We'll head deeper, into the structure. If something's been unlocked, we need to know what it is before it finds a way out. Prepare for the worst." As the crew steeled themselves for the challenges ahead, the structure's hum grew louder, reverberating like a heartbeat. The failsafe had been a victory, but the true test was still to come. Whatever secrets lay buried within the ancient structure, they were no longer content to remain hidden. The hum of the structure grew deeper, resonating through the crystalline walls and vibrating in the very air. The crew advanced cautiously, their path illuminated by the pulsating glow of ancient conduits that seemed to guide them forward. Each step carried a mounting sense of dread, as though the walls themselves were watching, aware of their every move. "This energy spike is off the charts," Kyle muttered, his mechanical eye flickering with readouts. "Whatever we unlocked, it's drawing power directly from the core. If it keeps escalating, this entire structure could destabilize." "Then we're on a clock," Kivran replied, her tendrils twitching in sync with her rising apprehension. "We need to identify what's waking up and determine if we can stop it before it spreads beyond this place." Commander Ethis gripped her plasma blade tightly, her eyes scanning every shadow. "If it's hostile, we neutralize it. Simple as that." Lauren's exosuit beeped softly as he analyzed the faint traces in the air. "There's a biological component to this," he said, his voice uneasy. "The biosignatures are getting stronger. It's like the structure itself is growing something." Vanira stopped abruptly, her crystalline form refracting the pulsing light. "Wait, look at the walls." The crew paused to examine the crystalline surfaces around them. Intricate patterns of symbols and lines now writhed and shifted, forming coherent images. They depicted a sequence of events, a civilization flourishing, their advanced constructs maintaining harmony, and then catastrophe. One image showed a dark, amorphous shape spreading through the structures, consuming everything in its path. "It's a record," Vanira whispered, her voice trembling. "The Erythians. They created this place to contain whatever that is. But it broke free." Kyle's mechanical eye zoomed in on the symbols accompanying the final image. "It's a warning. They knew this thing wasn't just dangerous, it was unstoppable. The failsafe wasn't designed to destroy it, only to delay it." The path culminated in a massive circular door, its surface engraved with layers of symbols that pulsed in rhythmic patterns. Kyle approached cautiously, his multi-tool extending as he scanned the mechanism. "The failsafe must have unlocked this," he said, his voice steady despite the tension. "But it's not just a door. It's a containment seal. Whatever's behind here is the source of the energy spike." Kivran stepped forward, her tendrils brushing the edges of the door. "Can you open it?" Kyle nodded grimly. "Yes, but once it's open, there's no turning back." "Then do it," Kivran ordered. "We need answers." As Kale worked, the team prepared for whatever lay ahead. Ethis positioned herself at the forefront, her plasma blade humming softly. Lauren adjusted his exosuit's biological filters, ensuring maximum protection. Vanira activated a defensive field around her crystalline body, the light within her refracting into a protective shimmer. With a final input, the door groaned and began to slide open, revealing a chamber bathed in an eerie, pulsating light. At its center was a massive crystalline structure, similar to the spire they had encountered before, but far larger and more intricate. Suspended within it was a dark, amorphous entity, its surface rippling like liquid shadow. "What is that?" Lauren whispered, his voice barely audible. Vanira's crystalline body dimmed as she studied the symbols around the chamber. "It's called the Void Form. The Erythians described it as a sentient anomaly, a being that feeds on energy and matter, assimilating everything it touches. They tried to study it, but it grew too powerful. This entire facility was built to imprison it." The void form stirred, its surface undulating as if sensing their presence. The energy in the chamber surged, and the structure's hum intensified to a near-deafening roar. The void form's amorphous mass began to shift, forming tendrils of shadow that reached toward the edges of its crystalline prison. Sparks of energy danced along its surface, and the air grew heavy with an oppressive force. "It's testing the boundaries of its containment," Kyle said, his mechanical limbs twitching as he monitored his instruments. "If it breaks free, it'll consume everything in this structure and beyond." Kivran stepped forward, her voice steady despite the rising tension. "Is there any way to reinforce the containment?" Kyle shook his head. The fail-safe reset the systems, but it also weakened the containment field. It's too unstable. Then we need to find another solution, Kivran said. We can't let this thing escape. Captain, Vanira said urgently, her crystalline, fingers tracing symbols on a nearby console. There's one more sequence here. It's a purge protocol, a last resort. If we activate it, it will destroy the void form, but it will also collapse this entire structure. Lauren's voice was grim. If we don't, this thing could wipe out entire star systems. We don't have a choice. The team worked quickly, each member contributing to the activation of the purge protocol. Kyle interfaced with the control systems, bypassing layers of encryption to access the final sequence. Vanira guided him, her knowledge of the Erythian symbols proving invaluable. Ethis and Lauren stood guard, their weapons ready as the void form's tendrils lashed against its crystalline prison, sending shockwaves through the chamber. I've almost got it, Kyle said, his voice strained. Just a few more inputs. The void form's movements grew more violent, its amorphous mass pressing against the containment field. Cracks began to form in the crystalline structure, each one accompanied by a surge of energy that threatened to destabilize the chamber. We're running out of time, Ithis warned, her plasma blade slicing through a tendril that had breached the edge of the field. Kyle, finish it now! With a final input, the console emitted a deep chime, and the purge sequence began. The chamber filled with blinding light as the crystalline walls vibrated with an intensity that shook the ground beneath their feet. We need to get out of here, Kivran shouted, her tendrils gesturing toward the exit. Move! The team sprinted back through the passageways, the structure collapsing around them as the purge sequence consumed the energy core. Behind them, the void form's anguished roar reverberated through the crumbling walls, a final desperate cry before it was engulfed in a cascade of light. The stellar veil awaited them, its engines powered and ready. As the crew boarded, Kyle activated the ship's shields, deflecting the debris that rained down from the collapsing structure. The ship ascended rapidly, breaking free of the atmosphere just as the facility below imploded in a brilliant flash of energy. In the silence that followed, the crew stood together on the observation deck, staring down at the barren planet. The ancient prison of the void form was gone, its threat neutralized, but the cost of their mission weighed heavily on them. We did what we had to, Kivran said, her voice quiet but resolute. The stellar veil drifted in orbit above the now silent planet, its sleek frame outlined against the infinite black of space. Within its observation deck, the crew stood silently, gazing at the barren surface below. The once active crystalline structure had vanished, replaced by a field of glittering debris, each shard a remnant of the ancient civilization that had tried so desperately to contain the void form. Kivran leaned against the observation rail, her tendrils gently tapping its surface. The weight of their actions lingered heavily in the air. For all their effort, the mission had yielded more questions than answers. The Erythians, their purpose and their ultimate fate, were mysteries that remained tantalizingly out of reach. Lauren broke the silence, his voice subdued. Do you think we did the right thing? Kivran turned to him, her gaze steady. We had no choice. If the void form had escaped, it would have consumed everything in its path. We may not have the answers. We sought, but we've ensured the galaxy's survival. That's enough. Kyle, seated nearby as he ran diagnostics on his mechanical limbs, nodded. The Erythians built this place to contain the void form, but they underestimated its power. We've bought the galaxy more time, but it's a reminder of how much we still don't understand. Vanira, her crystalline body refracting the dim light of the deck, spoke softly. The Erythians, they were the architects of so much. What we found here proves they weren't infallible. They faced challenges even they couldn't overcome. There's a lesson in that. Ithis stood near the viewport, her plasma blade holstered, but her posture still vigilant. If there's one thing this mission has shown us, it's that we're not alone in our struggles. The challenges we face as a species, as a galaxy, are part of a much larger story. We're just another chapter. As the Stellar Veil began its journey back to the Galactic Union, the crew gathered in the ship's library to review the data they had salvaged. Though much of the Erythian knowledge had been lost in the facility's destruction, fragments remained, enough to hint at the scope of their achievements and their downfall. Kyle projected a holographic reconstruction of the facility's records pieced together from what they had managed to extract. The images displayed vast star systems, interconnected by networks of energy and light, each one a testament to the Erythians' reach and influence. "This is what they built," Kyle said, his mechanical eye focusing on the projections. "A galaxy united by their technology and their vision. But something went wrong. The void form wasn't just a mistake, it was a consequence of their ambition." Vanira pointed to a section of the hologram where the symbols distorted and fractured. The void form didn't just happen. The records suggest it was created. Whether intentionally or not, it was a byproduct of their experiments. They tried to harness something they couldn't control. Lauren's exosuit hummed softly as he studied the biological data. The Erythians weren't just scientists or engineers. They were creators, but creation comes with risks, and they paid the ultimate price for their hubris. Kivran's tendrils coiled slightly as she listened. "Their story isn't just a warning," she said. "It's a reminder of our responsibility, the knowledge we seek, the power we unlock. It has consequences. The Erythians' fate is a mirror, showing us what could happen if we don't tread carefully." The Stellar Veil's return to Celis Prime was met with a mixture of relief and curiosity. The council convened immediately, eager to hear the crew's report. In the grand amphitheater, Kivran stood once more at the center, her tendrils composed but firm as she recounted the events of their mission. "The Erythian facility we discovered was a prison," she began, "a containment for an entity known as the Void Form, a being of immense power that threatened not just the Erythians, but the entire galaxy. We neutralized the threat, but at great cost. The facility, along with much of its knowledge, is gone." The council listened intently, their expressions ranging from intrigue to concern. When she finished, the ancient being Korvath spoke, his voice resonating like distant thunder. "Your mission has shown us both the promise and peril of discovery," he said. "The Erythians' legacy is one of brilliance and caution. We must learn from their mistakes as much as their achievements. You and your crew have done a great service to the Union, but the questions you've raised must guide our future endeavors." Kivran bowed her head. "Thank you, honored council. We'll continue to seek the truth wherever it may lead." In the weeks that followed, the data recovered from the mission was disseminated across the Union's research networks. Scholars, engineers, and historians worked tirelessly to decode and understand the fragments of Erythian knowledge, piecing together the story of a civilization that had reached for the stars and paid the price for their ambition. For Kivran and her crew, the mission was both an end and a beginning. The mysteries they had uncovered were far from resolved, but they had sparked a renewed sense of purpose. As they prepared for their next journey, the lessons of the Erythians remained at the forefront of their minds. Standing on the Stellar Veil's observation deck, Kivran gazed out at the endless expanse of stars. Somewhere out there, more secrets awaited discovery, and she was ready to uncover them. "To the next chapter," she murmured, her tendrils brushing the viewport as the stars stretched into infinity.